Welcome to episode 50 of the Feed Your Soul with Kim podcast. Today is a question and answer session with Kim. I went live in my Feed Your Soul community page on Facebook and I got asked a lot of questions that I think a lot of you have questions about. Really, they're questions about how to end overeating and how to have more peace with food. I know you're going to love these questions. They are definitely questions that I've had from a lot of different people, and I think you will get a lot out of listening. Okay, so we've got this question and answer came after I had that secrets to end overeating. And what I found is that people were really feeling really concerned about food and struggling with food. The setup for the secrets to end overeating, which actually at the end of this recording, I'll put in the notes all down below. I'll put the link to the secrets to end overeating. You really should listen to it. Lots of great information, lots of information that was actually really connected to this time in COVID-19, which I think brings a lot more issues with food than there is normally. And so when I've been talking about food issues now, I've been talking about it in terms of the COVID, and I wanted to add that as an extra layer of stress and anxiety because I think sometimes we're missing that is causing a lot of issues. And that became really clear to me when we did the Secrets to End Overeating Zoom event, because a lot of people were unsure about how much this time of this pandemic, how much it's been actually affecting their eating and their feelings about themselves. Just to qualify, as some of you might not know me, I'm Kim McLaughlin. I am actually a psychotherapist in the state of California, and I'm also a motivational coach. I am a podcaster. I am an author. I do a lot of blogs and get out a lot of information. And I also run this group, Feed Your Soul community page on Facebook. I wanted to offer up this time for you to have just live Q&A. So I have some questions that people have sent in to me. And if any of you are live, I'm trying to see if I can see your questions. So put questions in the chat if you would like me to answer some questions. I have a lot of questions actually that were sent in to me in advance. I had offered to have questions answered, or that I would answer questions in advance because I wasn't sure if everybody could come live, right? So what I want to first start when we're talking about questions and answers around having peace with food, one of the things I think of is that we have to put it in context that we're in the time of COVID-19. That means that a lot of people are out of work. You might be struggling with work. You might be struggling with lack of money. You might be struggling with having everybody at home. You also might be struggling that you get to work and you get to make money while other people aren't, and kind of this survivor guilt that I get the money and other people don't. There might be a lot of feelings going on. And what I've been noticing is that it's showing up in a lot of overeating. A lot of people are talking about eating when they're not hungry. Having a lot of comfort food in the house has been strong, especially in the beginning of this pandemic. There was a lot of talk. People would tell me all the time that they would be overeating and buying a lot of comfort food, as well as noticing in the stores, the shelves are out of comfort food. There's spaghetti sauce is gone, spaghetti's gone, bread has been gone, meat items have been gone. So there hasn't been this plethora of food, which I think has caused a lot of food instability, which can also go with eating issues, is feeling afraid that there isn't going to be enough. And a pandemic absolutely brings up the feeling of not enough. I've told you guys a lot that in the beginning of this pandemic, I couldn't find toilet paper for 4 or 5 weeks. Like literally every store I went to, there was nothing. And that I found was quite disturbing because I'm used to living in a, first world country where there is plenty of everything. And to find that there weren't items really increased my lack and limitations, and that there wasn't enough. And I say that to honor that for all of you, that this feeling might be showing up for you too. The other thing I want you to think about, because we're on the verge of hopefully moving out of this time of shelter in place and isolating like we have been, into moving out more into the world. And what I want you to consider, and I'll be talking about more as the weeks go on, is that there might be a push now for people, through advertisements, through a lot of posts, are going to be about feeling angry that you didn't lose weight, or that you didn't take this time to be the better person or to get more fit. And there might be advertisements from diet industry that, now that we're done with the pandemic, you should feel upset with yourself. Now buy this food program, buy into this diet mentality. Or weight loss places might say, you should have been losing weight. You had all this time. You were at home. You had plenty of time to work on this and you didn't. Now let's get to it. Or exercise facilities might start talking about, now that we're done with the pandemic, now that you can come out, let's get that bikini body. That I know is coming up soon, is the whole bikini body issue. And also just shaming you that, well, since you've gained all this weight in the pandemic when you were shelter in place, let's get on it and let's get those pounds off. And I want you to feel, to notice when that's happening, to notice if there might be fear within you, or this need to go into that diet mentality. Because we talked about it before, dieting leads to binging, which leads to shame, which leads to more dieting. And I want you to just notice if that feeling comes up for you, because we can end up shaming ourselves into feeling bad about ourselves, and then doing more destructive things with food that actually don't help you and don't lead you where you want to go. So let's start looking at the questions that I have, and post any questions if you have them. First question I have is it okay to allow food to be comforting? Is it okay to allow food to be comforting? Well, when I talk about food as nourishment, so I talk about food can be nourishment or it can be nurturing. And I think of when we talk about comforting, when we comfort with food, that's about using food to nurture ourselves, which isn't what we want to do. It's not what food is about. But I got to be honest, we do that. If what I think of is looking at, am I using food to comfort myself, to nurture myself more often than not? That's the question, is am I doing it more often than not? Because when we use food to comfort, we're not using our other areas to comfort ourselves. We're not looking at how we're going to engage in self-care and really looking at what works. Because when we look at what works, food as nourishment, our body feels good and we're able to do all of the things we want to do. When we use food as nurturing, it can feel good for a moment, but then there's that next moment where it doesn't feel good. And when it doesn't feel good, that's when we have a problem. So yes, food can be comforting. Food is comforting. I actually have acknowledged on various platforms that I've been talking about this, is in the beginning of this whole pandemic, I found myself saying, when I was at the store, this food sounds comforting and I want that right now. I was consciously making the decision that I wanted to have comfort food, that I thought it sounded good. I was hungry and I wanted it. And so I did it. That's fine. It was conscious. I wanted it. I was hungry. Yes. Food can be comforting, but let's not use it for the totality of being comforted. So what can you do instead that's comforting? That would be the question I want to ask you, is, are there other things you can do that feel comforting? For me, comforting is a couple of things I've been doing. Actually, the past day or two, I've been using my essential oils. I've been using my diffuser and putting on some essential oils. And to me, I love smells. I love things that smell good. So I want to have more of that as a comfort. Another thing for me that's comforting is, oh my gosh, I have this old, my pajamas are old and they were ripping. So my daughter and I were at Target the other day, and I decided I have this old pair of pajamas, or this old top that I use for pajamas, and I was dyeing my hair, and so I got dye on it. So I thought, I am done with this shirt. I want a new one. So when we were at Target, I bought myself a new pajama top. Well, that's comforting because I felt pretty, it was comfortable. I didn't have to look down at the silly stain anymore. And also it was ripped and it was pulling apart. It was years and years old. I decided that that would be a way that I would comfort myself. So do you see, comfort doesn't always come in the guise of food. What essential, loving using essential oils, which ones do you use? I've been using doTERRA actually. And what was I, oh my gosh, I was using lavender this last week. And why did I use lavender? Because lavender smells relaxing to me, and I wanted that relaxing smell. So that was one thing that I was using, was my lavender essential oils. Yeah, you guys, if you have questions, put them over there in the comments, so we'll answer them for you. So that's about comfort. I think I kind of talked a lot about that. Another question I've got is, I want to become more aware of my overeating. And I gotta say, that is one of the best questions I can get, because I think the starting spot to even looking at overeating as an issue is to notice it. So when you say, I want to become more aware, I'm going, yeah, yay, rock on. That is what we want. When we become more aware, means that you're starting from the spot of noticing it. And we've got to notice it in order to get to the place of doing something about it. So what does that mean? Sometimes I see people will talk about they hate their body. They hate that they overeat. They hate what they're doing to themselves, and that they're not being more proactive. So that to me comes from that sense of negativity. When we come from the sense of, I want to be more aware, we're becoming more conscious. And consciousness means that we're looking at it. So if you want to become more aware, it means to start saying that I want to be aware. So for today, I want to be more aware of my food. The thing that I talk with my clients about when I talk about awareness is, I call it being the detective. And when we're a detective, we're kind of just sleuthing and we're looking around and we're looking to see what's going on and paying attention to that. So it's a very kind and gentle way to notice what's going on. So if you're in that detective mode, you're noticing, I'm hungry right now. I want to eat. I talk about this often when I'm talking, especially when it's around coming up to lunchtime. I don't like to eat before I do these live talks. So I am hungry. I'm hungry in a way that when I'm done with this talk, I will eat. So I'm becoming aware right now as I'm sitting and I'm talking about it. Oh, my tummy feels physically hungry. So when I'm done, I'm going to eat. That's that part of being the detective. Being the detective is also a part of when I wake up. How am I feeling? Am I hungry? What's going on for me? The detective part also comes in when I think about, what do I want to eat? I'm hungry right now. My body is saying hunger, let's eat. What am I hungry for? That becomes a part of that awareness and conscious state, so that you're looking at what is working in your body. What do you need? So I say, take out kind of that Sherlock Holmes, what do they have, that magnifying glass, like kind of looking around. What is the detective, and asking, what do I want? What do I need? When we come from that perspective of asking the question as a detective, am I hungry? What would I like? What would satisfy me? What would fuel my body? Then we're being conscious. And as we're being conscious, we can then make different decisions, right? Because as we're consciously looking at it, I could say, I'm hungry. What am I hungry for? And often my answer is, well, what serves my body right now? What do I need? And then that helps me become more aware of my eating, which then helps me become more aware of when I might be overeating. It's a kind, gentle way to look at it rather than being forced and being angry with ourselves that we're not doing it correctly. Let's see there. Put in the chat if you have any questions. I have more that I've gotten. Another question I got was, how do I ease anxiety that encourages my overeating? And I think that's a huge part about what's going on right now is there's a lot of anxiety. I talked about that in the beginning of this Q&A call, that there's a lot of anxiety coming on, a lot about not having enough food. Will there be the right kind of food? And that kind of anxiety can fuel eating from the place of lack. But also there's a lot of anxiety around, am I going to get sick? Right now, for me, there's a lot of anxiety for me about, can I go outside? Is it okay? Am I following all the orders that's expected of me? Can I be close to somebody? What can I do? And to me, that brings on anxiety. It becomes then my responsibility, my task, so to speak, is to notice, how am I feeling? How am I feeling? And when I start saying I'm feeling anxious, well, to me, when I'm anxious, what we know is that we can't be anxious and calm at the same time. They cannot exist together. When I'm anxious, that is an automatic call to be calm. And right. And you'll say, well, Kim, that's easy for you to say, like, you know how to get calm. Well, not always, but I know that if I notice anxiety, it's a call for calm. One of the best ways, when you're asking about how do I ease my anxiety, one of the best ways to ease anxiety is to be in your breath. Simple, easy way to make peace and calm happen. And really, it just takes taking a deep breath. So practice it with me. Go in and out. Notice how that feels instantly. Actually, I was feeling a little tense in my shoulders when I talk. I kind of get a little anxious because y'all are watching me and listening, and that feels a little anxious for me. So taking that deep breath helps me out. And then I start noticing my shoulders dropped as I'm taking this deep breath. For me, my jaw drops when I take that deep breath. My forehead starts to drop, and then I feel calmer. When I feel calmer, I'm not as likely to engage in overeating, or if I start to think about overeating, I can notice, oh, this is that anxiety. Okay, let me take a deep breath and let's get into calm. When I'm in calm, then I can go into that detective mode and say, what would I like to have? What would fuel my body? What would feel good to me? And I can then move from there, right? So it becomes easing into letting go of that anxiety that will help you. So I think we covered anxiety. I think I gave some good tips about how to manage anxiety. Guys, put any questions in the comments if you have any questions as we move along. The next one I got was actually one that I think is pretty huge. The question about, how do I manage boredom? This is coming a lot for people, about feeling bored. It's kind of that people have been telling me, actually, I've been saying it myself, is it feels every day like Groundhog Day. In this time of pandemic, is every day it's like, okay, today's the same old, same old. There's kind of nothing to look forward to, no big adventures going on. And I think that happens even if you're working. I'm still working in my business, so I have a lot to do, but I do find that boredom comes along because I'm in this time of the coronavirus that I'm having to do things differently. I don't get to automatically go out. There's no movies to go to. Can't go out to a restaurant. Can't eat out at a restaurant. We at this point can't go, oh my God, can't go to the park, and my daughter can't play on the swings. We were at the park that we walk around a park. We were just walking as a family, And there were swings in the place that, and she says, I want to go. I was like, we can't do that because we've been asked in our area not to use the play equipment because of, the germs and things getting them on, and the coronavirus touching anything external, all of the monkey bars is not healthy. And so they've asked us not to do that. So we had to ask our daughter, don't do that. And it becomes, well, I'm bored because we can't do what we normally do. Yes, 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 yes. We cannot do what we normally do. Mostly, I mean, I guess she could have gone done use the swings if she wanted to, or if we allowed her to, but we're willing to go and abide by what we're being asked to do. So what I think of when people say I'm bored, and especially I'm bored right now, I have been thinking about it for myself as an opportunity. And the opportunity is, where have I been in my comfort zone? What have I been doing that's really been kind of robotic, not being in conscious, being conscious. We were talking about that, of being aware of overeating, but I think also just in terms of our life, how have we been moving into not being conscious and not being aware of what's going on? That's what I think of when I think of boredom, is how have I been complacent in my life, and how might I move into something different? That for me is what this shelter in place has been about, is that kind of like, how do I become more aware inside of myself about what I need, and how do I manage boredom? How do I move out of feeling bored? Let me tell you what I've been doing, is I've been doing actually a lot of journaling, and that has been something I've wanted to do in the past. And since I have a little more time now, I've been able to do the journaling, which has got me more in touch with what is serving me more. Truthfully, I made out a list at the start. I have actually a podcast where I talked about, at the start of this COVID-19, the pandemic, when we were asked to shelter in place. It was my podcast, actually. I don't know the number. I'll have to put it in the notes below when I find it, but I talked about how to make this pandemic something that is meaningful to you, and what might you want to do. And I think of it now, as we're kind of a lot of weeks into it, that it's not about a have to, but it's about a want to. What do I want to do? And some of the things I've found that I've been doing is, there have been a lot of shows on TV. A lot of artists, musical artists, have been doing a lot of home shows. They've been at their home and they've been doing music, live feeds, and they're put together in a package. God, we saw one that was a country western hour-long show of all these artists all over the country that have done like a Facebook Live videos, and they put them all together. We also saw a bunch of contemporary artists did another night of shows, and I've been watching that. My family has, and that has been extraordinarily enjoyable, because we see this really toned down music with people talking about their music, and really having more of an acoustic feel to what they do. And I have enjoyed the heck out of it. Also, I have been watching my little secret pleasure that some of you might know, is I love musicals. I call myself a musicals freak. I enjoy musicals all over the place. And Andrew Lloyd Webber has been doing a free YouTube channel freebie. I think he calls it The Show Must Go On. And every Friday at 2 until Sunday at 2, he offers up a live performance. I just saw Saturday night, I watched his live performance of his 50th birthday celebration, which was like 20 years ago. Extraordinary. 2 hours of musical bliss. I loved it. And then the weeks prior, I watched Phantom of the Opera, a live feed of a whole Phantom of the Opera play. And then another one we watched was Love Never Dies, which is the sequel to Phantom of the Opera. I loved it. And so what's happened for me during this time of the coronavirus, how I've moved out of boredom, is by doing something fun and different, and taking advantage of some of these unexpected gifts that these artists have been giving us. And I have enjoyed the heck out of it. Another thing I've done with boredom is reading more. I wanted to learn more about intuition. So I took out this book that I've had for years, and I've been reading it. It's called intuition awareness, something like that. But I wanted to learn more about intuition. So that's another thing I've been doing. So in answer to the question, how to move out of boredom is find something new. Encourage yourself right now to say, if I was going to do something different, what might I do? If I was going to learn something easy, what might I do? I'm not talking about starting a PhD program, people. I'm talking about something that's kind of easy, like I did, just taking advantage of what is already being gifted to us and doing that. That for me has been a huge way of moving out of boredom. Boredom, bored, lonely are two huge triggers to overeating. My clients consistently talk about bored, lonely are triggers to overeating. And right now, that can be a huge trigger. So find what you might do to move out of boredom. And then when I talk about lonely, actually, this wasn't the question, but when I talk about loneliness, hi, you guys, as you come on, if you want to put in questions down for me, I'm live and I'm taking questions, any questions that you might have. Just got done talking about boredom. Loneliness, what I have found that has worked real well for me is I've been doing Zoom calls with friends. We did one of my group of girlfriends, we had a live Zoom call. It was extraordinary. And I loved getting close to them and talking with them where we can see each other. I had a girlfriend last week. I was missing her and I said, how about happy hour tonight? Let's do a Zoom happy hour. So we're at 5 o'clock, we're having our Zoom call and talking to each other. So that has been a huge win. I know that, or Zoom has been giving away free access to their platform. I have the paid platform as part of my business, but they've been giving away a free platform that you can use where you can see people. I know people are doing FaceTime and other ways to get to see each other. To me, what was different about it was that I got to see people rather than just doing a phone call. So it was seeing people. I know people that have done game night over Zoom. I know that there are certain apps that people are using to do more live interactions and doing games together. So those are some fun ways to manage boredom and loneliness. Another question I got was, how do I become more aware when I'm eating other than at mealtime? How do I become aware when I'm eating other than at meal times? Well, that starts with becoming more aware. Once again, I think it comes back to that detective thing of when I become aware of eating at mealtime, and outside of that is just being the detective. Oh, I know what I was thinking of with this one is one of my tips that I like, and I learned it a long time ago, is to notice my general times that I eat during the day. And actually, I'm going to give you guys the link to an easy peasy program that I have that's a super easy yes in just a little bit, where we talk about mealtime and how to get more connected to your body and food and how to eat. It's my Stop Overeating Quick Start. I'm gifting it away for a really low price. And I'll talk about that in just a couple of minutes because I think you need this. All these questions lead me to think you guys are needing this really easy peasy program. But how I get in touch with eating other than mealtime is noticing, when do I normally eat throughout the day? And in this quick fix guide, I actually have a strategy where you look throughout the day at when you're eating. What I find with people is that there is a general time of day that you eat throughout the day. For me, it's breakfast, and I have something for breakfast most days. And then I tend to have a snack, a lunch, a snack, and then a dinner. That's for me. Other people do a lot of little meals. I know some people have been doing some things around stopping eating at a certain time. It really takes checking in with your body and what you need. But what I find is once you know your typical rhythm for the day, and I know that right now with the whole COVID thing that oh, thank you, Michelle. What I noticed through this whole COVID thing is that we are having a different time of eating throughout the day because we don't have our routine that we had when we were working. Even now, my routine when, even though I'm still working, I'm not in my office, I'm at home. working, which means I have a whole different schedule, and my family's here. So I have a different schedule, which has been a little tough about my meal time. So I know when I'm generally hungry, and I look to those meal times to help me um, strategize or notice if I'm hungry. So in the morning when I wake up, I notice I'm hungry, and kind of I start out with coffee because that's my thing, and then I start often with a smoothie, and then I move throughout the day with my general things that I eat. So once you know what your rhythm is, you know when you're eating off of your normal schedule. Doesn't mean you can't eat off schedule if you're or your schedule, quote unquote, because when you check in with your body, that's how you know when you should eat. Just because it's 12 o'clock, and I often people will tell me like, well, it's 12, I should eat. No, it's 12 o'clock. Am I hungry? Check inside with your body. Am I physically hungry? Go into that starting spot before you move into whether you're going to eat or not. So once you notice if you're physically hungry, you can then move into eating. When this question is about eating other than mealtime is, well, it begins to notice, well, I'm eating other than mealtime. Am I hungry? That's always my first question. So are you hungry? And that takes checking in physically with your body. And I know that that's easier said than done, but it is a doable, and it's an important doable because when we overeat, often what we've lost is that desire for hunger, that noticing our hunger. We often lost it when we were children. We kind of had this moment of we can't be connected to our body, and we don't think that we should be able to notice when we're hungry. We have to eat on some kind of timetable and eat in some particular manner, or eat some certain type of food that often fall within the certain caloric intake, so that we don't gain weight. And what happens is with that is that becomes that diet mentality of restriction and not eating with noticing where our body is at and what our body needs and wants. What I say is it's 12 o'clock. Well, how is my body feeling? Am I physically hungry? If the answer is yes, eat, eat. I remember there was this one program years ago that a diet that I was on, and I remember the leader of the program said, that if it's after a certain amount of time, if you've eaten all of your portion of food that you're supposed to eat, don't eat anymore. And somebody said, well, can't I have, what about if I just have carrots? And she said, no, don't have carrots. It's like, I thought, this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. Carrots? Are you serious? If you're hungry after a certain time, eat your food. Eat the right food, eat the food that fits for your body. But if you're physically hungry, eat. There is a mechanism within our body that tells us we should eat. Do that. Do that, please. Otherwise, you're engaging in diet and restriction, which is going to lead you to binge. So notice if you're hungry, notice if you're full. If it's not mealtime, I wonder if maybe you do need to eat. Maybe your meal wasn't big enough. I know I've had some meals where like I eat a meal and then an hour or two later it's like I'm hungry. Well, it could be I didn't eat enough, or I didn't eat the right variety of foods in it that would fuel me or fill me up. And if I don't, then I've got to eat. I've got to eat. So if you're eating other than mealtime, start checking in with yourself about whether you're hungry. So let's say that you are checking in with yourself and you've eaten and you're not physically hungry, but you want to eat. You kind of feel the call. This is what's happening a lot, you guys, right now with the whole COVID-19 thing is people are at home and they're afraid of their pantry. They're afraid to go in their kitchen. Oh, I'm just going to overeat. I'm just going to have snacks. I'm just going to eat these things. Well, you don't have to. That's really coming from a place of fear of food. And what I want for you is a place of empowerment with food. And what that means is if we start coming into these times where we notice I'm hungry, eat. If we think I want to eat, but I'm not hungry, my question is, oh, honey, what's going on? What's going on that I want to eat and I'm not hungry? And I literally say that to myself. I say, oh, Kim, what's up? I literally pat myself on the back. What's up, Kim, that you're thinking of eating and you're not hungry? And then I also tell myself, you can eat if you want to, but let's just take a minute. Let's just take a minute. And for me, that minute is the pivot. And it's the pivot into, what do I need? Remember earlier, we talked about food being comfort. How am I possibly needing to comfort myself right now? How am I possibly needing to nurture myself right now? Do that. And what I ask myself is, so Kim, if I eat this thing, because often I got to tell you, at that point, it ends up being, I generally want something sweet. And I find it fascinating that when I want to eat when I'm not hungry, or at least it used to be, when I want to eat and I'm not hungry, it's often for something sweet. And I'm not here to be the sugar police or to tell you that you shouldn't have sugar. And I'm not going to tell you sugar is bad. But I find it fascinating because I still have in the back of my mind that sugar is kind of this, the enemy or evil. And like, it comes up as like, well, I could have sugar. I could have sugar. And then that would be the thing that I could have right now. And I want to say, that when you're thinking of a time where you're not hungry and you want something sweet, I say to myself, okay, I can have it, but let me just take a minute and wonder what's going on. Because what I know is that if I'm not physically hungry and I'm wanting this street treat, I want to know, is it going to take care of me in the way that I need it to take care of me? Is it going to nurture me? Is it going to comfort me? And sometimes the answer is heck yes. I want it. I'd like it. It sounds good. It sounds comforting. I'd like to. Okay. Food can be comforting. Yes, 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 yes. It's just, notice if it's all the time you're using food as comfort, then I want to challenge you that you're not having food in that proper place as nourishment. So if I am going in and I'm not hungry, I want this sweet thing, I'll just ask myself what's going on. I'll have a little dialogue. I'll walk away. I will literally go clean dishes for a few minutes just to wonder, like, Kim, what's going on, Kim? What do you need? I find that when I'm doing something, I distract myself from having to go quickly in and have sugar, but to notice, like, well, what do I really want? What do I really need? Often I find that I needed to just do something different because I was bored, because I was lonely, because I was anxious. If I just do something different, and truly it can be something like taking a short walk. I literally will walk around the house or walk around the building. I will write in my journal for just a few minutes and talk about, so Kim, what's up for you? What's going on? Or I might literally do some dishes, just clean something for a minute. That I find that then that gets me in the zone of wondering, Kim, you are not hungry, you're not physically hungry. What do you need right now? What's going to be comforting? And I'll find that it's generally, I feel comforted after I do something different. And I'm not so much in the zone for something sweet. It rarely do I ever want it after that because I'm nurturing myself, you guys. That's what it's all about. I'm nurturing myself in a way that is getting to the core of what I need. What I needed was, I was feeling bored. So if I do the dishes, I'm not feeling bored. And also I feel super accomplished. I have this thing done. That feels good. If I'm feeling bored and I walk around, I kind of feel, ooh, this boost of energy. Or I'm feeling tired, I have this boost of energy. Those are all good things. And that leads me off of that bored feeling. Do you see there's a lot of different strategies going on here that will help you? When I come on these calls and I talk about this stuff, I think about, like, is this going to end overeating for you? Well, no, it takes a lot more work than what I've talked about. And it's not work, it's just a different way of living. When I think about how we manage overeating, there are six components. Six components here. It's showing backwards in my screen, so it's throwing me off. Six components, and I actually talk about that a lot. I didn't share with you guys my book, Feed Your Soul, Nourish Your Life, a 6-step system to peace with food. This book has my 6-step system. So the six components are physical, emotional, mental, lifestyle, mindfulness, self-love. Today during this talk, I talked about all of those. What it takes is those 6 components, and it takes balancing them. That's why when you engage in a diet or just try and attack this thing, I'm going to quote that, through food, it doesn't work. Food is half of one of the components. The physical is partly about food and partly about a lot of other things. You have 6 components to deal with, and they're not all about food. So when we balance out all of these components, you come to a place of peace with food. You come to a place of food, which is peace with food, which is what you all want. So how do we start doing this? It's like you got to do something different. You got to do something different. When I think about it, it's like making a commitment to yourself to do something different is what this is about. So the thing I thought of is I've been offering this on my talks that I've been doing lately is the Stop Overeating Quick Fix Guide, and it's normally it's $206 worth of stuff, over $200 worth of things in this program. And I offer it on my website for $49, which I think I'm going to raise that price because I think that's way too low. But when I go live in person, I'll give you a coupon code, which is the $20 and 20. If you put that in, you'll get it for $20. So Stop Overeating Quick Fix Guide. It's the thing to get you started. When I just was talking about noticing hungry and full, that program will help you with it. What it is it's 7 days. It's a 7-day program. You get an email once a day for 7 days. Do you need to do it in 7 days? No, it'll still be there later. Can you work on one day for a week and then the next one for another week? Sure you can. Why I did it in 7 days is because I want you to have a quick start. If you follow all of the guidelines for each of those days, I promise you will look at food differently and you will have some success. You will have something different that you'll do. Where you have in the Quick Fix program, what you need to start doing is measuring physical hunger, which is, I call the starting spot to eating. You've got to notice when you're physically hungry as opposed to emotional hunger, mouth hunger, and head hunger. You've got to know the difference. So you know whether you're physically hungry. That's going to help you with everything. If you start noticing your physical hunger. The other thing you've got to do is notice if it's not. What other kind of hunger is it? And if it's another kind of hunger, what are you going to do about it? You got to notice all that. And what can you do when it's mental, like when you have those thoughts, like what can you do and say to yourself to help you move off of overeating and move into nurturing yourself? And also what this quick start is helping you with noticing the feelings that are coming up that are leading you to overeat. The feelings that lead you to overeat are not necessarily the feelings that lead me to overeat. When I talked about earlier, I said people will often, when bored and lonely, often the people I talk to, that leads them to overeat. And that's especially right now during this COVID-19 is bored and lonely. But that might be a part of what leads you to overeat, but not in the totality. For you, it might be anger leads you to overeat. It also might be happiness and excitement leads you to overeat. I talked to you when I started this talk. Like when I go on these talks, I feel a little nervous. Even though I'm hungry, I feel a little nervous. So I'm not eating right now. Since I feel nervous, I'm not going to eat right now. When I'm done and that nervousness goes away, it's like, okay, now I can eat because I know that feeling, how that affects my eating, right? The second component that we talked about is feelings. You've got to notice the feelings and see how it interacts with your eating. All these things are covered in this Stop Overeating Quick Fix Guide. I got to tell you, for $20, it's a no-brainer. And it will give you a daily insight into how to look at food differently. It's not something that's overwhelming. That will be, it's kind of an easy doable. And what I love about when we have doables that are connected to food, we have food every day. We have to eat. So you're going to have this, you're going to be coming to the table. Literally, you come to the table. Let's have a different way of coming to the table right now. And I've had lots of people tell me, Kim, I gotta get started now. I gotta get started now. This is the way to get started. It's an easy win for you. So you go through 7 days, you learn how to look at food differently. You learn how to empower yourself around food while you're looking at how to nourish yourself with food, and then nurture yourself in different ways. What I don't talk about, you guys, is I don't talk about dieting. I don't talk about calories. I don't talk about what style of eating you should eat, which is what diets do. I talk about intuitive eating, where we notice inside of our body and notice what's going on so that you can feel empowered when you come to the table. That's what I'm talking about. But you have 6 areas, right, that have to be in balance, or you're going to feel out of control. And I got to tell you, when you feel out of control with food, it's because those 6 areas aren't in balance. Let's get you started in balance. As always, I am super excited to share this information with you. We're going to go live more often. If you want to leave me more questions, you can direct message me. We'll do this again if there are more questions. And please know that I am there with you. There is a way to have peace with food. I know it because I've been able to get it for myself. And I tell you, I thought I was lost before. I never thought I would live without diet, or that I could feel peace with food and peace inside of my body. Is it 100% all the time? No, I have to come to the table every day. Do I feel better and better every day? Absolutely. When you do these techniques, when you learn how to intuitively eat, you can have a place of peace with food, and there's nothing like it. So let's start nourishing ourselves with good food that feels good in our body, and nurture ourselves in ways that are lasting and effective. So you guys, this is Kim McLaughlin. You can find me at feedyoursoulunlimited.com. You can find me on my podcast, Feed Your Soul with Kim. I'm so glad you guys were in this live Q&A with me. Please leave me comments, leave me doables about what you're going to do. And I thank you for joining me. I look forward to talking to you soon. Bye, you guys.
Thank you for joining us on the Feed Your Soul with Kim podcast. We come to you every Monday with fresh new ideas to help you end emotional eating and put food in its proper place as nourishment. Please be sure to subscribe to this podcast and review it and let us know what you think. Thank you for joining us.